Hello everybody. It's lovely to see everybody arriving from New York and Bromley, from Italy and Switzerland and Portugal, Scotland and Edinburgh and Pennsylvania, Mount Shasta and London, from a very proud London, Chile Crouch End, yes, and Brazil. Great to see you. Well, as everybody arrives, I'll start talking. And welcome everybody. Welcome if you're coming to the live broadcast. Welcome also if you're watching the recording, because more people watch the recording inevitably than watch it live. And please know that you're as welcome too. And from a spiritual perspective, time is bendy, and so even if you're watching the recording, hopefully we can all access the same level of consciousness and sense of community feeling and group identity as well. So hello from Ireland and from Pennsylvania, Downingtown, Pennsylvania, and Washington and New Zealand. Hello, Rosemary. Yeah, great. Okay. So, well, today has been an extraordinary day. You know, it's been the day of the funeral of Elizabeth, and because it had such a long lead up, I've had a bit of fatigue, but by being displayed so much on the television and the media every day, day in, day out. And I was going to try and focus on finishing my book today, but as 11 o'clock came along, I thought, no, it's time to tune in to watch this, and it was very moving and wonderful, and it evoked a lot of memories for me, because for about 6 years, every morning I used to go into Westminster Abbey because I was going to school next door, and so every morning we had to be there. We were punished if we didn't get there, so I used to run from St James's Park Station down Tothill Street just to get into the Abbey in time, and would sit in the southeast transept there, and so I could, in watching the television, I could imagine myself there very strongly, simply because I'd spent so much time in that beautiful building. And it feels like one of those days like Christmas Day, or when the snow has fallen and everything's quiet. Inevitably, there was much less traffic around. It was quieter, and there was a kind of hush in the air, or at least that's how it seemed to me today. And it led me to thinking about this question of collective fields, of energy fields. Beth, please think of my dad who's passing away tonight. We will. Many blessings for him on his journey. I'll try and talk more about that at the end, this question of the journey into the other world. Trixer, my heart was flowing over when I saw her horse and the corgis. Yes. David Jones pointing out that the Queen Elizabeth was an honorary ovate. Yes. So there are connections between Druidry and the Queen. So it feels very peaceful now, and it's really fitting that we're coming up to this time of the equinox. It harmonizes very well. This particular sort of historic moment today harmonizes really well with the energy of the time from a Druid perspective. So we're moving in a few days' time towards the autumn equinox here in the northern hemisphere, the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere around. So it's sort of 22nd, 23rd, depending on where you are, of September. So we're moving into the energy of the equinox. And in the Druid tradition, the autumn equinox is called Olben Elfed, which poetically translated, not literally, means the light of the water. And the image for that is of facing west, contemplating the setting sun. So that's a fitting image for those, Beth, for your dad who's passing away tonight, and for the soul traveling to the other world, to the summer isles, to the blessed lands, the isles of the blessed. Watching the sunrise, the sunset in the west is symbolic of that. It's the end of our day. It symbolizes the end of our lives as well. And the autumn equinox marks the opening of the gateway, if you like, towards Samhain, time of total letting go and from it. It's the beginning of that process of letting go. And whilst there's sadness in that, there's also a sense of fullness, of completeness, of naturalness. Nothing more natural than watching the setting sun. And, sad though it is, nothing more natural than us dying. And so a sense of naturalness, of completion, of fullness, of fulfillment, the cycle fulfilling itself. And a calm that comes with that. And you might associate the quality of compassion with the West. Again, from the Druid perspective, certainly within Obod, the West is associated with feelings, with the heart, with love, just as the East is associated with the mind and the intellect. And so the West is associated with love, with the heart, with developing the quality of compassion. And we can use the eightfold wheel of the year in the festival scheme to develop qualities of soul and of character, of being. So we can use this time of the autumn equinox to develop our qualities of compassion. How do you do that? Well, one way is simply to open to it, just to dwell on it, to contemplate it, to allow it to be present in our lives. And something like a funeral is a moment when those feelings more readily come to the surface. And then a big national funeral like this that we've had today, it happens on a collective level. And then there's some kind of, what I believe is there's some kind of reciprocal process going on. So everybody supports everybody else. So there's a collective movement towards that sense of compassion and love. And time of recollection as well. It's interesting that it's associated with recollection because, of course, it's the harvest, and we harvest as we get towards the end of our lives or towards the end of any cycle. We harvest our memories. We think back on the previous cycle or on the whole of our lives or on the life of the person whose funeral it is, and we harvest them, we garner them. There's this lovely word, garner. We garner them, gather them into our hearts, and allow ourselves to think on them. Which is why it's so nice to have, photograph now with, when my mother died in December, we made a slideshow of photographs of her through her life with some of her favorite music to play after the funeral. And that was just beautiful. That sense of gathering in those memories and refreshing our memories. So all these ideas are naturally associated with the autumn equinox. And we happen to be at the time of the autumn equinox too. And so my sense is when I tune into the collective field of consciousness is there is this sense of garnering, of opening of the heart, and of pausing. There's a sense of a pause at the equinox too. I mean, each festival gives us the opportunity to pause, just to stop being distracted by lots and lots of things, and just to focus on the time. So each festival does that. But the equinoxes in particular, the solstices too in their own way, but the equinoxes, the autumn equinox, there's this pause. We know that autumn's coming. The leaves haven't really started falling, certainly in Sussex where I am now, but soon the golden leaves will start to fall down, and autumn will begin. So it's like a pause. Summer is finishing. Autumn hasn't quite arrived. There's this little gap. So it's a moment. And you can say, well, you know, how do you know it's a collective feeling? I mean, this could be just a subjective sense that you have. But let's have a look. Sandy's saying it here. Whoops, there we go. I went outside for a breath of fresh air. The silence was surreal. The birds were silent. The bees were just sat on the flowers. Even the clouds appeared to be still. It was as if everything stood still for 10 to 15 minutes. Yes, that sense of stillness. I can feel the rhythm of my consciousness is very, very slow. It's very pleasant. This afternoon, I was visited by some Druid friends, members of the order from France, and we had tea in the garden, and the sun was shining. It was lovely. And I was asked a question about initiation, and I thought I'd share it with you because it might be of interest. And it connects to this idea of collective feels, this idea that whatever we're thinking or feeling isn't contained within this bag of skin that we are, that somehow it radiates outwards, it emanates outwards and influences other people. So we can have these collective fields of consciousness. So the question was, is it necessary to be initiated as a Druid? Do you have to go through initiation? And this is my perspective on this, and you might well know the famous adage that ask 10 Druids for their opinions and you'll get 12 different answers. So this is just mine, and it goes like this. To be a Druid, you can, of course, simply decide to be one, just as you might decide to become a Christian or a Buddhist. You are inspired by a particular faith or perspective or spiritual path, and you think, this is me, I feel at home in this. This reflects how I feel and think. I am going to become I am a Buddhist, Christian, or Druid. So you can do that. You can just be a Druid. That's fine. There's a way in which the term is also used as the sort of culmination point or a particular marker in a journey of training. So you become, in the order of bards, ovates, and druids, you become a bard and you train as a bard. Then you become an ovate, and then you become a druid. So then you're a sort of trained druid, as it were. Those who train as druids know that once you enter the school of the druids, you realize that it's, of course, lifelong, and there's always more to learn. It's not a question of achieving some sort of pinnacle and then having nowhere else to go with it. It's constantly, the horizon constantly is expanding before one. So that's another way of understanding what it means to be a druid. But what about the question of initiation? So at one level, of course, we don't need to be initiated. We simply can adopt the perspective and the beliefs and the ideas of Druidry and find it inspiring and decide to make it our spiritual path. But there's something about undertaking a ceremony. I mean, we saw in the funeral today the power of ceremony. The other reason I was watching the ceremony, not only to witness a historic moment, but also because the order has a school of celebrancy, and we teach people to conduct funerals. So it's interesting to see how funerals are conducted from that perspective. The choreography, the sequencing, the music, how it's presented, the prayers, and so on. So we know how important ceremony is because it seems to open a door. Like in this case, as Sandy was saying about the silence, it opens the door to silence. It opens the door to a collective sense of compassion or peace or heart, or however you want to determine it. So undertaking an initiation at that sense endorses or points to the value of ceremony, of using ceremony to open something within one, so that the initiation acts as a catalyst in a process of spiritual development. It stimulates one's journey, if you like. That's for oneself, but what if something is happening on the collective level as well? What if by being initiated, you're actually being initiated not only into a new phase in your own life, but also into a collective field of consciousness? And I think that's what's happening. And that's why I love the kind of atmosphere when we have big gatherings of the order at Glastonbury or places like that. There's a tremendous atmosphere, kind of harmonious, but also strong, energetically feeling of connection and so on. And I put that down to the fact that everybody in the room, or virtually everybody, has been initiated. They've opened themselves and joined this particular group of souls on the earth. Because at a kind of mundane level, you think, well, this is kind of a strange idea. Initiating into an order, spiritual order. What does that mean? Why is that necessary? What I'm saying is it's not necessary. Of course, it's not necessary. But the potential in it, the value in it, is that you're opening yourself and enabling yourself to join a kind of collective pool. It's as if we're, I don't know, an image that comes to me is sort of the ocean of consciousness. And then there are different parts of the ocean, aren't there? There are warm parts and cold parts and different plants and fish and so on. And you sort of swim through, in the initiation, you swim through a little gap in the rocks and you come into this particular part of the sea, which I think happens to be very rich and beautiful. Doesn't mean to say you're trapped there. You can swim out of it again if you want to. You don't have to spend the rest of your life in this patch of ocean. You can swim out and then swim back every so often. You can come back to this little area of the sea and enjoy the other fish, the presence of the other fish who are there, and the waving fronds and anemones and so on. But you don't have to stay there. You can swim away and then swim back. And I see somebody saying, I think I did mine alone by the riverbank. It was magical, as though nature had welcomed me into her heart. I agree wholeheartedly with you. Thank you, Paula. Yes, it's funny. Water imagery really works with this idea of initiation somehow. Somebody once talked about how working with the Guerci, in the course, the little teaching lessons that we send out, they said, I don't know what it is about these lessons, but every time I pick one up, I feel as if I'm entering a stream. It's not just about learning something. It's about entering some sort of stream of awareness. So there we go. That's just my sense of what it is. So I'm looking at everybody's comments. They're so interesting. And I think there's looking at some of the comments here, I think there's an idea that comes to me here about on the one hand keeping one's own counsel, and on the one hand being open to the influence of the collective. The one thing in my book initiation doesn't mean, or joining an order doesn't mean, is groupthink, is taking everything that anybody says within the group as gospel, as somehow relinquishing your ability to be discriminating, your ability to say no to a particular idea or thought that somebody expresses, even if they're a mentor or guide or whatever. It's something much more than any individual opinion or even any individual teaching that's presented within a group. That's why those watery images, I think, are so powerful and effective for me. So with that in mind, in these teas that we have, I always have a sense of the collective here. I mean, here we are, there's just under 300 of us here at the moment, who are scattered all over the world, from the other side of the world in New Zealand, all the way around the world. And when I do these teas, I have this sense of being in this collective field with everyone else. Doesn't matter I mean, who knows whether that's an illusion or not, but other people say they feel that way too. And if it brings some kind of benefit, then let's allow that and go with that. And so, given this idea that we're in this field, let's take a few moments to tune into this field. So there's this general collective field of awareness that maybe is particularly still this evening, thanks to the ceremony at Westminster Abbey, and thanks to the fact that the tide, the sort of psychic tides, are moving us towards the equinox, the time of stillness and recollection and opening to compassion. So within that, let's open to that big collective field of awareness, and also our own smaller collective field of 300 of us or so, just being here at this time together. And let's allow our sense of being individuals sitting in front of computers or screens to gently fade as we allow ourselves to become aware of being seated on a hillside facing west and the sea. There are trees around us, perhaps behind us. So there's this presence of the guardians, these trees rooted deep in the earth. And just imagine that you're sitting comfortably on this hillside. There's a sense of the group around you. If it feels comfortable for you, you don't have to do this, of course you don't. But if this feels comfortable, have a sense of this group of like-minded souls sitting quietly together on this hillside. And then yourself as an individual, your own sovereign self, seated on the earth, and you can feel the earth beneath you. And just take a moment to tune into that grounded sense of the earth beneath you. The stability of the earth, bringing you a sense of calm and peace. And if you close your inner eyes, so your eyes are closed within this visualization, and you just sense the solidarity of the group around you. You sense the calm of this group, the fact that everyone is grounded too. And beyond this group of souls, there's a wider group. Ancestors, perhaps, spirit guardians, guardians of the land. Spirits of earth, spirits of the plants, spirits of the sky. And you sense the spirits of the trees too, rooted deep in the earth, stretching high above, their branches and leaves stretching out into the sky. And you look across to the horizon now, opening your inner eyes. And you see that the sun is starting to set over the sea. It's possible that you see some islands in the distance on the horizon. Perhaps this is High Brazil, the Summer Isles, the Isles of the Blessed as they are known in tradition. The sun is gradually setting over the water. A blessing on all souls who travel to the other world. A blessing on all souls making their journey to the Summerlands. A blessing on all souls who slip free of their physical bodies and travel in their subtle bodies and in their soul and in their spirit to the land of the blessed. May their journey be swift and safe and sure. May their lives be blessed. May all lives be blessed. And gradually sense the sun now sinking down slowly into the sea. And you feel the very last ray of the sun touching your brow, sending you a blessing. And then the sun sinks. The sky starts to turn that beautiful turquoise, changing to indigo as the first stars come out in the night sky. And you can just see the moon starting to rise. And you can feel the blessing of the moon. And you feel the moonlight now on your brow. Moonlight and sunlight blessing you with their light and with their healing. With the light of silver and gold in your aura, we all give thanks. We look around now and see our group around us, blessed too in the light of the moon and with the light of the sun. And we ask for a blessing on all beings. May the earth be preserved and protected. So may it be. Imagining placing your hands now on the earth to feel the stability of the earth and the grounding power of the earth. Sending your love to the earth and then moving your hands up to your heart. And as you do that, you might like to do this physically, so that as you move your hands to your heart, you become aware of your physical body. And you become more and more aware of your physical body now, as your awareness of being on the hillside begins to fade, as you become aware of being seated in front of your screen, in the here and now, fully present. And slowly, when you feel ready, you open your eyes. So, thank you so much for being together this evening. And I'm going to get some tea and then read all the comments and have a really good week, peaceful week. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. So many, many blessings and much love. Okay, bye.